Hello and welcome to episode 25 of Retro Recall the PS1 Chronicles, a show where we play and rank every PlayStation game ever created. My name is Jimmy, and as always, I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
Bit of an interesting game this week. We, off camera, spun the wheel and landed on this.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting episode.
While playing this, I had some thoughts that I'm thinking you might agree with me on, and I'm hoping that you do. It's interesting. I don't want to get into it right now, but so what's going on with you this past week?
Yeah, I guess before we get into it, with the Fallout show being out now, I was busy when it came out, so I finally got to watch it. And obviously, it's amazing.
Oh, is it?
I'm sure you've seen the reviews, right?
I haven't, no. I just saw the trailer.
It's getting like 9s and 10s out of 10s from everything.
Okay, so I want to start this from the beginning. I've never played a Fallout game. I have some. I just never got around to playing them because of how much time it will take to put into it.
Yeah.
For someone like me, do I need to know the game to play or watch the show?
I don't think you need to, but there's tons of Easter eggs everywhere.
Right.
It's one of those things where it's like, it's a new story in the universe. So as long as you generally know what things are, then you're fine.
Oh, okay.
And like the game, the show will pretty much lay it all out there for you. And if not, like, you're not stupid. You can figure it out as you go. Like the factions and like what a ghoul is and just things like that.
So it's kind of like it explains it for new people, but not enough to annoy people who know the game already.
Exactly like that. Yeah. I honestly don't think you need to know anything, but that's impossible for me to judge because for, just a reference, I have a Fallout tattoo.
I forgot about that, actually.
Yeah. I've played Fallout 3, New Vegas, and 4 at least 2 to 3 times. I probably played New Vegas 5 times in my life.
Okay. Yeah, I have New Vegas in my library. I want to say 3 is in my library, and then the original is like 1 and 2.
I also have them on my library, but I've only played the newer ones.
Oh, okay.
Just because the older ones are more of like a CRPG, and it's like hard to go back to, but one day I do want to.
Right. Yeah, I picked them up just because I'm like, well, if I do ever want to play this series, I do want to start from the beginning and see where it all started.
I will say, if you're going to play the series, I wouldn't recommend that.
Oh, really?
You can start at like 3 and it'd be fine.
Oh, okay.
That's when I started. But yeah, so there's a big Fallout sale on Steam, so I bought Fallout 76, which I've never played.
Oh, nice.
And that's the online only multiplayer one.
That was the one that got like extremely bad reviews when it first came out, right?
Yes. And apparently it is fixed now. I had to restart the game 3 times because of bugs.
Oh, wow.
So maybe not fixed. But once I got it working, playing with my girlfriend, it was a really fun time. And I'm definitely going to keep playing it whenever I have time. But it's not the same as a regular Fallout game, though. It's very much like about the experience with friends and not about the story.
Which would make sense if it's an online only. You're not going to have as much story element there.
Yeah, they just, the big issue when it came out was it was marketed as just like a normal Fallout game, but with other people in it.
That makes sense.
And not like a new version of Fallout. I like it so far,
Yeah, if I remember right, that was the original problem with the game is it wasn't what people were expecting jumping into the game. So getting into it is like, okay, well, what do we do? Like, there's not much. I think there wasn't a lot of content either in the beginning.
Yeah, it was the combination of that and just, every Bethesda game is just insanely ridden with bugs.
Oh, yeah.
So it was just not cool that I had to restart the game 3 times, like rebuild my character 3 times.
Oh, wow. So geez, that makes it more annoying.
But like I said, once it started, I was having a good time. So I will update you as I play more.
Now, how far did you make it into the show?
Oh, I finished it.
Oh, you did?
So I watched 1 episode and then I was busy with like band stuff. And then as soon as that stuff was all done with, I binged the rest of it.
That's how people at work, one guy binged it all in one night, watching everything.
If I didn't start watching it with my girlfriend and I watched it by myself, I would have watched it all in 2 days.
Nice. Yeah, it's going to go on my list. I do want to check this out. Never playing the game. I am curious to what all the hype is about and to see how good it is. Because even the trailer, like not understanding a lot, the trailer looks amazing.
Yeah, my biggest worry with the show was that maybe the humor was going to be done poorly because most video game adaptations kind of try and go like the Marvel approach where there's like fucking quips and jokes every 2 seconds for no reason. Like how I'm sure the Borderlands movie is going to be.
There's a Borderlands movie?
It's coming out soon, I think.
Oh, Did we talk about that?
No, I've seen stuff about it.
Oh, wait, I did see that trailer. That looks bad.
I'm definitely going to watch it, but like, I know what I'm getting into with that one.
Pretty much anytime a video game, anything, movie, TV show, whatever comes out, I'm always very skeptical with how good that's going to be.
That's why I was scared.
I think we're getting better with it now. Like now studios are taking a little bit more care of the video game movies, but took a long time to get here. Like you go back to the whole Dragon Ball Z. Well, that's an anime, but the Street Fighter movie was terrible. So I think we've been burned so many times that now it's like, is this even going to be close to being good?
Yeah, and I think it's also like the directors are actually lovers of the games first. So like the guy that directed this and created everything, he's known for making Westworld.
Oh, okay.
Which is very Fallout in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I can see that.
I watched like the first few seasons of Westworld, then I fell off. But honestly, perfect guy for the job. He fucking nailed it. I can't wait for you to watch it.
I mean, that's like J.J. Abrams was talking about making a Portal movie because I guess he likes those games. I'm just like, please don't ruin such a good franchise of a game. Like, leave it alone. Don't even bother.
Yeah, that would be weird. What would that even be about?
Exactly. Like the whole game is about your experience in the game. It's not story driven at all. Well, it is, but not to the sense of you can show that on a screen.
Yeah. Granted, I haven't played Portal 2, but I know that's the best one.
Oh. Crazy you haven't played Portal 2. Maybe that's something we could do sometime in the future.
Well, as you remember, I don't really like puzzle games. So I played the first Portal because it was in the orange box, which I bought to play Half-Life 2 on Xbox. And I just never really got around to it. It's not like I like made the choice not to play it. I just at the time didn't play it. And now it's like, when do I have time to play Portal 2? You know?
True. Going off of that and not to get too far into a tangent, you know, I just realized recently that Half-Life was more of a horror game. I never knew that.
So actually, whenever we were in the studio, I downloaded Black Mesa, which is a remake of Half-Life 1.
Okay.
And it was pretty scary.
Well, it's like, I've always heard people talk about like, oh, Half-Life is such a good game. Again, I believe both 1 and 2 in my library. Haven't gotten around to it. But one day I saw a streamer playing it. I think it was the second one. And I happened to just tune in just to like check it out real quick. But I didn't want to watch too much because I wanted to experience it too. And just seeing like him playing, I'm like, wait, this is a horror game? Like, never would have guessed that at all. I thought it was more of like an action shooter.
Well, I'll say it is an action shooter, but with horror elements. Like there's horror parts.
Oh, okay.
But there's a lot of like physics puzzles and puzzle solving and like, the older first person shooter stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But when it gets scary, it's definitely, I remember it being scary. I haven't played Half-Life 2 since it came out, but I definitely remember being scared by it.
Interesting.
Well, because it ends up being about zombies and like face huggers and shit. So like,
yeah, that's the one thing I do know about that game is the face huggers and the crowbar. I think is that the other thing that is known with Half-Life.
Yeah, iconic crowbar. All right, well, let's just go ahead and hop into this game then. Magic Carpet was released on March 28th, 1996. It's a port of a PC game that was released a year earlier. This version has all the expansions from the PC version all in it. So I think there's like, I want to say maybe 100 levels in this game or something crazy.
Oh, okay.
There's an insane amount of levels in this game.
I looked it up and there was 45 that I can count in the manual. So I don't know if there's now more that they don't list in the manual.
I believe. Okay, here we go. 45 in the original game. The box in manual says 50, but some of the levels are missing.
Right.
And then after you beat normal mode, you get the expansion, which has another certain amount of levels that I am not going to research to find, but that's a lot of levels regardless.
Going through that, we could just say that this is just a very manual heavy game. If you don't read the manual, you're not going to get through this at all.
Absolutely not. So this game was developed by Bullfrog Productions, and the PlayStation port was handled by Chrysalis Software. And it was published by Electronic Arts. Weird. Back when they used to actually publish games that aren't sports.
Yeah.
But as far as genre goes, I guess you would say this is a 3D flying game with first-person shooter elements.
Yep, that's the closest thing you can get to it. It's just that.
It's almost like tower defense at points as well. I don't know if you've noticed that, where you're like defending your thing.
Yeah. It starts as a basic game where you're just flying around shooting things, and then all of a sudden, after 5 levels, when you get to the 6th level, it's like, oh, now we're switching it up, and now you have to like do everything you've been doing, but now you have to juggle and do this other thing of competing with a computer wizard. So you're juggling responsibilities while trying to like also collect stuff while fighting him, while trying to prevent him from stealing your stuff. It's a nice switch up out of nowhere, I think.
I agree. I think this game is just, it's an interesting concept, but it's not executed very well.
No. Before we dive too far into this, we should start from the beginning. We're really bad at starting from the beginning with these games. And I already want to go off into tangents and complain.
So do I.
I can sense that you do too. So,
well, I'll just start with, I started playing this game and I had no idea what to do.
Not at all. And someone brought this up. I wish I had the person's name, but this was brought up in one of our comments before, of saying how back in the day when these games came out, we did rely on reading the manual. And it's something I forgot about. Like when you were driving home, like your parents were driving you home from the store and you had your new game. I know I did this. I opened up the book and I was just studying the manual inside and out. And that was just how we got our instructions. And I know we've complained a lot in the past of, oh, you can't find this information unless you go digging through the manual. But that's just the way that gaming was at the time.
Yeah, I just struggle with the whole thing that, you know, we're judging this from playing it today. So are we going to play it like a game that we're playing today? Or are we going to play it like a game would be played back then? You know what I mean?
No, I get that. I just think that it's becoming more apparent, at least for me, that I need to read through the manual to have a basic understanding of what even to do. Because when you start this game, and you can see in my footage that the game starts and I'm just floating there. And I'm like looking at the screen like, oh, am I playing now? I didn't even realize that we jumped into the game.
I just flew around for like 15 minutes trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do.
Exactly. So for the first level, I played it blind, not knowing what to do or what was even happening. After that first level, I quit the game and then I went and read the manual. And then I came back to the game after that because I'm like, clearly I'm missing a ton of information for this.
I did the exact same thing. And while I do agree with you with the whole manual thing, I'm just always going to go into a game blind and see if I could just play it like I would play a game now.
I get that.
There's obviously plenty of games that we played where that is more than fine to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also wondering if, since this is a PC port, that plays into it as well, where like, you know, as a PC gamer, you're obviously going to read more into it, especially like being on the internet and like being able to look things up and probably having a thick book with the physical version of the game too.
True. I didn't even think about that. But also, it's just with a lot of games too, you'll text me sometimes and say, like with Saga, you said, hey, just a heads up, this is a walkthrough type game. You need to have a walkthrough up to play the game. And even with that, I tried to do it on my own without doing the walkthrough and found out immediately you weren't lying. I needed to pull up the walkthrough. Even with Dino Crisis, I never looked at the walkthrough. I'm like, if I can figure this out, I want to do it on my own.
No, I agree with you. I just think with this game, you have to have some sort of guidance on the way the game works or it just won't happen.
Yeah. So the whole story of this game is there's a magical wizard, there's a planet that is made up of energy and magic. And then people came along to the planet and started separating the magic from the planet, I guess. And then the main magician guy came up with an idea of, oh, I'm going to do the spell to get rid of all this stuff. Spell's too strong. He destroys everything, including himself, but you live somehow. They don't explain that. And then you're just taking on the role of like the apprentice trying to restore balance into the world, which on paper, that sounds like a great game.
Not going to lie, that first cutscene in the beginning is so long. I was just like struggling to pay attention with how just like boring it is, honestly.
It's not told in the best way.
It's like someone's reading you a book.
Yeah, I get that. I get that entirely.
So yeah, I guess we should explain like what you do in this game. It's so essentially what you do is you have to fly around on a magic carpet, kill things, and capture their mana.
Yeah. Is that how you pronounce that, mana, or is it mana?
I don't fucking know. I was just watching an anime where they were calling it mana. So that's what I don't know. I don't care. You can say it however you want. I will probably say it both ways during this conversation.
I've never known the real way to say that. But yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, you're going around collecting the mana, and then you're using that to build up a castle, which is your fortress throughout the level. And eventually the level just ends because you have enough. I don't know what the trigger is. It would just say the world is restored. I'm like, okay.
Yep. And what's nice is, well, not nice, but in order to even collect the mana, you need to build your castle to then it builds blimps or like hot air balloons that go and collect it for you. So you technically could collect all this stuff, but it doesn't count until you build your castle.
That's true. So pretty much as soon as you start the level, you have to build this castle, and then you just go start killing anything you find.
Yep. And I'm going to make this comparison early. I don't know if you're going to agree. This is almost exactly like Invasion from Beyond.
Kind of, yeah.
At least for the terms of how the map works and all the different colors on the maps that you have to memorize what colors mean what. And this enemy is yellow, this enemy is red, this enemy is green, and each one is something completely different. The way that you're flying through is almost similar to Invasion from Beyond.
You might not agree with this, but I think the controls here are better than Invasion from Beyond.
I kind of agree with that a little bit.
I just didn't struggle to play the game like I did with Invasion from Beyond. So like, I'm not saying these controls are good. I'm just saying they're better than that.
I can kind of see that. Can we say the one positive thing right off the bat? This game has a way to rebind your keys built in.
I didn't mess with it, but that is great.
Oh, I did. I changed up my controller 100% to make it more suitable to what I wanted it to be. Why do more games not do this?
I think, just like I was saying, this is part of it being a PC port, where on PC, obviously, you can do this with every game.
True. I saw that. I was so happy that I didn't have to abide by what they told me the controls were, and I could just set it up to what's natural for me. It made life so much easier.
I just got used to the controls after a while, so it didn't bother me anymore.
Okay. Well, see, my problem with the default controls was, especially when you're in a battle, it gets to be a lot of like your hands are jumping everywhere on the controller trying to push a bunch of buttons. So I set it up in a way where like I can keep my hands stationary in a sense and still move while firing at the same time.
I pretty much just pushed the fire button as fast as I could and move back and forth.
That was my technique too.
Because like you unlock different spells as you go, but you start with the fireball, and I used the fireball my entire time. I didn't touch any of the other spells.
And this is the problem with like having to look at the manual first, because when you start, you have the fireball and you have the, what is it, like the possession?
The spell that you use to take the mana.
Yeah. And you can also use the spell to shoot at buildings that takes over the buildings. And that just gives you more mana, I think.
I think so.
Oh, and you have your castle spell to build your castle.
Oh, yeah. You have to use that.
So I'm going, and like the first thing I do is I see that rock snake slithering along. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to start shooting them. Fireballs weren't doing anything. So I'm so confused. I switched to the castle one, and I shot the castle at him, and he blew up. I'm like, okay, well, that's how you kill him then. So I just went on shooting my castle at all these different creatures to kill them, because I thought that was the only way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, some of the enemies just take so long. Like, you're shooting like 20 fireballs into them.
If not more. Like you said, I was just rapid firing on the fire button, just like strafing back and forth and just hoping that they die eventually.
So I made it through level 8.
Which I'm surprised about.
And you made it to level 7, right?
Yes. So how long did you put into the game entirely?
So I've played roughly 2.5 hours.
Okay. My time, I want to put a huge asterisk on this. I put 3 hours and 10 minutes into this game. Made it to level 7. We will cover to why it took me 3 hours and 10 minutes. But
well, I also find it hard to judge a little bit. Like, so when I give that number, I'm just selecting all my capture and then right clicking and looking at that. But like, you figure how much time of that is me pausing to write down notes or just sitting at the menu for a second to figure something out. So I feel like usually whatever number I say, it's probably 10 to 15 minutes under that at least.
Oh, okay. Now, do you know how long the first mission took you, not knowing what you were doing?
I think once I figured it out, it didn't take too long. But my first like video of capture is just me trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
And that's like 15 minutes. I took a break, I read up, and then I went back, and I think I beat it pretty quickly. Just because like once you know what to do, those first few levels are very easy.
It is. It feels like I thought I was playing the game wrong, to be honest. Like, you get into a game or a level, and then like the third level took me 7 minutes to get through. And I'm like, am I even playing this game right? Because It flew by.
Doesn't last long.
And you were saying like you don't really know what the trigger is for it to be complete. It all comes down to when you build your castle, there's a white triangle on the mana bar on the castle. And your whole goal is to get it to that yellow or to that arrow. And then that's like, oh, you completed the level.
I figured something like that. Typically I was not paying attention to that much. I was just, I just keep killing everything, keep sucking it up, seeing what happens. You know what I mean? Then it would just randomly pop up while I'm doing something. It's not like I went there and it was like, oh, you win. It just randomly pops up.
Yep. And it's nice too that the level technically isn't over, even though it gives you that message. You can do free flying if you want after that.
Now, does the message just stay up?
For a little longer than I would like it to, but then it will shrink and go up into the top corner. So you still see it, but it's not in your face the entire time. Part of that too is because there's spells hidden throughout the world. So you can go and find spells. You can find enemies to get 100%.
I typically found all the spells each time, but it's just because like the maps are so small that you're seeing everything on them every time just to beat the level.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about the graphics though?
They're pretty standard for the PlayStation 1, I think. Like it wasn't anything incredible. I do like some of the physics stuff where if you shoot a fireball into trees, you can catch the forest on fire. You shoot into the ground with your fireballs, you can make indents into the ground. I thought that was cool.
That is cool. I think they're just fine. Especially once you get really close to things, it looks very bad.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can't hold the game to that standard where like it should be crazy when you get up close for the PS1. But I just feel like the environments are so lacking. They all look exactly the same.
Yeah, just the maps gets a little bit smaller or bigger sometimes, and you couldn't tell one from another.
Well, I just looked at a full playthrough of it and I was skimming through it before I made this comment, but it looks like the whole game just fucking looks like this.
Oh, wow. I meant to do that and I forgot, so I'm glad you did.
Now, I could have just clicked on the wrong things, by the way. I could have just clicked on the wrong parts and it could have been, could be later levels are great. But like, same thing with you in Armored Core where you're like, you're crazy.
But it's also lacking too where the draw distance is almost non-existent, where like you can only see a few feet in front of you, it seems like. And that's it.
It makes fighting certain enemies, especially the flying ones, a pain in the ass because they'll just like be out of your vision and you can't hit them anymore.
Mm-hmm. It's the weirdest thing to have such a shallow field of view when it's a flying game. So you're going to be in the air and seeing a lot of stuff, but you can't see a lot of stuff because of what the draw distance is. It's very confusing.
Yeah, and the fact that you move so either fast or slow, it's like you're either going super fast or you're barely moving at all.
Uh-huh. And then you have to react like immediately if you see something, like slam on the brakes on this carpet, like fly it into reverse and spin around and shoot whatever you needed to do.
Spinning around just sucks too.
Yeah, it does not go fast at all. I was trying to do like driver tactics where I was like doing the reverse while turning and like also like moving the accelerator at the same time to like try to spin my carpet around.
I know, you're like essentially just doing like 3-point turns with a magic carpet.
Yeah. I mean, a very positive thing, the aiming auto locks on enemies.
But if they're out of your field of vision just by a little bit, then you can't hit them anymore.
True. You got to play that line of they're kind of in that gray area of being outside of your vision, but inside of the vision, like you can barely see them. So it can still like track them.
Very true. I would just like get up close, start firing and slowly back up. Then I'm out of their vision. I come back and do it again.
Yeah.
Just the whole time slamming the fire button, going back and forth. That's how I would handle every single enemy encounter.
I'm so glad that you play the games the same way I do, because that's all my footage is too. A big part about this is it's from a Bullfrog, you said?
Yeah.
Bullfrog is where Peter Molyneux is from. And we played Dungeon Keeper for our other show, which was also by him.
Very similar vibe, I will say.
Yeah, he's very much known for the games having consequences. Where like with Fable, a big game that he was a part of, where everything you do has a consequence in that game. And that's been his style ever since, from what I can tell, he's ever made a game.
Yeah, yeah.
So that screws you a lot in this one when you're fighting an enemy and then a civilian walks by and your tracker is like, oh, there's an object there, let's shoot that. If you shoot a civilian, they turn on you so fast.
And then you have to kill them all.
I eliminated an entire island of people on one of the levels. Because of that same reason, I accidentally just shot one and they're like, all right, you're an enemy now, so we're going to attack you.
So in some of the later levels I was playing, the worms would just like be in the town around people.
Yep.
So I'm just like, I don't know what you want me to do because like as soon as it sees you, it starts shooting at you. So like you either just have to leave and hope it moves, which it probably won't. So then you just start firing at it and you hit somebody else. Now all of a sudden there's 6 people shooting arrows at you and you're like, all right, I guess I'm going to kill you all now.
Yeah, same thing. I did it too. Like he was like circling around a tower. So I'd zoom into his face pretty much, shoot and then back up. And I kept like trying to go in and like just be on top of this guy so I don't hit anyone else. And I still accidentally hit someone. So
at a certain point, I just gave up and I'm like, you know what? If they die, they die. It doesn't even matter because you still get mana from killing them. So who cares?
Yeah, there's no consequence for doing it wrong, which I think is weird. I think there should be a consequence in a way.
I was thinking that what was going to happen maybe was like the bar for completion for the level would maybe move a little bit if you're killing people because like it's taking you longer to restore the world because you're just murdering people.
I like that.
That's what I thought kind of was going to happen, but no consequences.
And then when you're done with the level, every level, that gives you stats of like, oh, you killed this many enemies. You did this % of like collecting the mana. Did you ever find that you killed literally everything on the level and it still said you only had like 40% of the enemies killed?
I don't think so, but I didn't really pay a ton of attention to that. Most of the time, I know it said I found 100% of the spells and usually between 90 and 100% of the enemies, at least in the beginning.
There are levels where it's like, oh, you only found 70% of the enemies. And like, I flew around the entire level. There is no one left. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, some of the later levels, like enemies just keep spawning in certain areas too.
Yeah. And we'll get into this more a little bit later, but also there's these Stonehenge areas where you can fly into those and those trigger enemies to spawn too, which I learned way too late into the game.
Yeah, sometimes they would spawn spells though too.
Oh, okay. I never had that happen to me.
At least I think so. I could be wrong. But yeah, I don't really know what the trigger is for that either. You just fly in it and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and I tried it a few times and I don't know where the exact trigger is because you can't fly into it. Sometimes it doesn't like generate what it's supposed to. I think you need to be like on ground level maybe. I don't know.
I would usually just do that whenever I'm like pretty much running out of places to go to kill enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Besides certain levels, there's a finite amount of enemies, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, a few of them they would keep generating, but like most levels, it's just this is it. So once you like kill everything you can see on the map, you have to start trying to figure out what the fuck to do pretty much.
Yeah. So we pretty much talked about the whole gameplay loop. You go around collecting, you're killing enemies to collect mana. You have to get a certain amount. The game really takes a turn at level 6. And so another enemy that is also in the game is other magicians or wizards or whatever you want to call them.
Vodor is his name or something?
That's the early one. And apparently there's like 12 or 13 of these guys. So they're also flying around. In the early levels, they're easy to kill. You see them, oh, I'm going to take you out. Now you're not even a problem to me anymore.
I did the same thing. Every time I saw one, I tried to kill them immediately.
Yep. And it was very simple, I found, to kill them immediately.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
But then you get to level 6. And holy hell, does this game take a turn. This is where you get into the tower defense, in a sense, type style of gaming.
Yeah, I mean, you're essentially like fighting against another wizard who's doing the exact same thing that you are. So he has a castle, and if you hurt him at all, he'll go back to his castle, which we didn't mention. If you go to your castle, it gives you all your health back.
Yeah.
So you're fighting him. As soon as you're about to kill him, he goes back to his castle and heals up.
Yep.
Even if you go there and destroy his castle, which I did over and over again, he still can rebuild it immediately.
Immediately. There is no downtime. He just comes back. He's like, oh yeah, it's fixed now. What are you talking about? Like, why can you fix your castle so fast? Now, this is the first time I died in the game, was level 6.
I believe me too.
Because I was like trying to fight him, but then there's these flying stone dragon things.
Mm-hmm.
And then the land stone snakes. And I was just getting hit from all directions and I was trying to fly away and I died. Not a big deal. I restarted.
Also, no lives in this game either, by the way. You can just keep going as many times as you want.
Which I like. I really like that.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, why have a penalty for no reason? It would just make me not want to play.
Mm-hmm. So I proceeded to play level 6 for An hour and 12 minutes. This pushed me to my breaking point.
So I played it for about 35 minutes, I believe.
I'm impressed you did it so quickly.
So what I did was I learned that I can't kill this guy, right? And for the most part, he doesn't even really attack you.
No.
He just tries to steal all of the mana balls.
Mhm.
So I would pretty much just like keep continually turning them back because he turns them a different color. And that means his balloon can come and take them.
Yeah.
But if you turn them back, then your balloon can take them. So I would just kind of find somewhere with a bunch of them. He's trying to turn him his color. So I would just turn him back to my color and just keep doing that until my balloon was there.
I eventually did that too, where I was just camping around them until the balloon safely got them. And then I'd kind of do like an escort mission with the balloons because you can also kill the balloons.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just escorting my balloons back to my castle and then going back out. Here's a spoiler. You can kill that guy in that level. I did it. So he was getting attacked by a flying stone dragon thing. And so I snuck up beside him and just shot him a few times and he died. And I thought, sweet, this level is going to be so easy now that I got rid of him. He comes back. He respawns if you kill him.
Oh, it's because he had a castle. Yeah, if you die and you have your castle built already, you respawn at your castle.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
But if you don't have a castle, you restart the whole level.
That makes so much sense. Damn it. I was so mad.
Dude, I would have been so mad too. That's why I just gave up on trying to kill him. I'm like, it's not worth this.
So the reason it took me an hour was because we ran into that problem where there's no more enemies left. Like we destroyed all the enemies. We collected all the mana. I didn't reach my goal yet because now he has all the mana that I need. So I started doing this thing where I'd go to his castle, shoot it until one of the walls fell down, collect some of the mana balls that fell, protect him because he kept wanting to try to take them, wait for him to rebuild, wait for my energy to come back, and do it again.
I mean, hey, that's one way to do it.
But it wasn't getting me anywhere. Like I'm just like digging into this game trying to make it work. And then that's when I found out about, oh, you can spawn more creatures by flying through the ruins and stuff. And that's how I eventually beat the game or beat that level.
I cannot even fathom the idea of playing 50 levels of this game.
No, just to go off that, I said I made it to level 7. I put 10 more minutes into level 7. Like after level 6, I took a week off or a few days, 4 or 5 days. When I came back yesterday to play level 7, 10 minutes I saw was the tower defense one. I'm like, I'm going to lose my mind if I have to do this again. And I quit.
So level 7 actually it's insanely hard to not die instantly.
Yeah, because they start you in the spawn area of those creatures.
They like suck you in while they're shooting you so you can't do anything.
While on top of only taking 1 to 2 shots to even kill you.
When I finally did get past the beginning, I got pretty lucky because not only did I get past them and I was able to build my castle, the other wizard was also fighting them. So I swooped in and killed him really fast and he didn't come back.
Oh, nice.
Because it was the beginning and he didn't have a castle.
Oh, you got lucky.
And then I made sure I was extremely careful so I didn't have to restart.
Just moving about really slow across all the things.
Yeah, and then I got to level 8 right after that today and I beat level 8 in 7 minutes. It was extremely simple.
That's the biggest problem with this game is you either have it so instantly difficult where you're spending a half hour to an hour, like 45% of my gameplay was this one level. Or you have these other levels where it's like, did I even do anything? Because I'm already done.
It's just so inconsistent. And like, I would imagine as the game goes, it's going to get harder. I mean, it has to, right? So I don't think it's a stretch to say there might even be levels that you have to play for an hour.
Yeah, I would agree.
The thought of that makes me want to just scream. But yeah.
Oh, if you could only see my face being an hour into level 6, I was so angry this entire time.
Yeah, you got there before me and you warned me. But then it wasn't as bad as I thought, but it still sucked.
Yeah.
It's just weird because I think this game has a lot of really good ideas. Like this gameplay loop and this general idea is fun. It's just executed so poorly that I just hate it.
I would 100% agree. I think the idea is interesting, but then it just is so repetitive immediately that it's just not fun.
I mean, we will get into this more later, I'm sure. But first thing is, I think this game should be third person, not first person.
Do you think that would actually make it better?
I think it would be easier to kind of maneuver yourself around. I could be wrong, but like a first person game where you're not holding anything and you're just like, it's like people who play a car game, like a driving game, and use the camera that's just the front of the car. Like, I could never do that. I hate that.
True. I don't know. I feel like the aiming would be a problem with third person.
The aiming's still a problem in first person. It just auto locks most of the time, so it's not a big deal. If you had to aim normally, it would just not happen.
If you had to aim manually, it'd just be all of our complaints about Invasion from Beyond again.
But yeah, I was also just going to say, I think more environments, even, I mean, I don't know if they slightly change or they don't change at all or whatever, but the easiest things, just like change some colors, change some environments slightly, mix things up just a little bit. And I might have even kept playing this, but it was exactly the same over and over again and just never getting any better, getting more frustrating. Like, why would I want to keep playing this?
Yeah, it's very much almost the same problems. I'm going to keep saying it about Invasion from Beyond because it's easy to compare the two because that's the only other first person or the shooter game we've played. Flying shooter game.
Like a flying game, yeah.
Yeah. This is almost the same problem where they kind of just give you everything at the beginning and then it just keeps repeating. The only difference is there's a ton of enemies in this game that we haven't even seen. And eventually they start to trickle them in for you. But at least in the beginning levels, you see the same stuff over and over and over and over again.
I feel like every 2 or 3 levels, there was a new enemy.
Really? Well, yeah, I guess. You get the bees at some point, and then you get the
like skeleton warriors too.
Okay, yeah. I forgot about them.
And then those water monsters. And then the last level that I played, there were these like, I don't know if they were monkeys or gorillas or something, but like something like that, and they throw rocks at you. I was on level 8.
Oh, okay. I experienced that with level 6. It's one of those things that whenever I went through one of the ruins, they randomly spawned, and I saw those.
Though they're the main enemy of level 8.
Okay. The amount of spells that you have is impressive.
But are you ever going to use them?
No. Well, some of them look useful, for sure, but I specifically always kept the manual open just to the spells page because it gave you a description of what each one does. It doesn't in game.
Yeah.
So just in case I got a new one, I wanted to make sure I knew what each one was.
I will say I did actually use the one that lets you go faster a few times. And I only used that to fight that other wizard because he would fly away with that exact spell. So I would just try and keep up with him. It never fucking worked anyway, but I tried.
Oh, yeah. The thing that bugged me too about that wizard is it just seemed like he can get to like a level 2, level 3 castle almost immediately. Like you're still going and trying to even get to level 2 and he's already like at level 3. It just seems so unfair.
Yeah, it's just a classic case of the AI being like too smart and like it obviously knows exactly what to do and exactly how to like min-max this thing and get there as fast as possible. Whereas you're just trying to fly around and figure it out as you go, you know?
True. But also, whenever we had the problem of like no enemies spawning, the weirdest thing is like when I randomly did get the things to spawn, the wizard just was there automatically. Like he knew it was about to happen. So I'm like, where did you even come from? You were gone. And I was here by myself.
I mean, dude, it's like every game. They're reading what you're doing. So like they know what you're about to do. So as soon as that happens, he's right there. Just the way it goes.
Yeah. Completely get that. I just think it's like, you could have toned that down a little bit.
No, I mean, it's definitely bullshit. I'm not saying it's like a good thing. We've seen that in multiple games so far where the AI is just clearly input reading you and it just sucks.
Yep. I guess it's just all they had at the time.
That's what I was just about to say. It's like back then, what else? They're not going to create some crazy advanced AI for fucking magic carpet. All right. Well, I think we're about ready to move on to some reviews. What do you think?
Yeah, the only thing we didn't talk about was the music and the sound effects.
And they just are the same song the whole fucking time.
Yeah, I liked it at first, but then when you hear it for so long, and like the magic carpet sound effect itself sounds like a spaceship.
Yeah, it does.
Like I think it's supposed to be the wind blowing in your face, but I'm like, this just sounds like a spaceship to me.
Yeah, it's too like artificial sounding.
Yeah. And how did you like the end of level animations repeating over and over again?
Just this terrible, terrible looking man zoomed in on his face.
And then it goes to this thing. It's like, power has been restored. And you get that every level, every time.
I was hoping it would change, but it never did.
It never, ever changed. Why? You could have done so much more with that.
I know this is a PC port, so it's like not made for the PlayStation, but it just seems like it's very much missing so much. It's like they just had this one idea and they just like shit out a game with it and didn't like really go into it and make it fully fleshed out, you know?
Which is another problem we've experienced with a lot of games so far. It's, hey, we have this one idea to do this one thing, and we're going to make a whole game and not do anything else.
So I guess it will probably surprise you, maybe not, that this game got very positive reviews at the time.
I'm a little bit surprised.
I can see why, just because, like, to be fair, it's not that fun to play now, but like overall, this is clearly not even close to the worst game we've played.
No, not at all.
So IGN gave it a 7.5 out of 10. One of the lower reviews, by the way.
That's crazy.
And they said, the landscape is somewhat barren, but what is there, trees, villages, lakes, responds to your magic permanently, which you were talking about earlier. This means if you scorch the earth with a fireball, it'll stay scorched. It's the little details that really make Magic Carpet worth exploring.
Exploring is a big word there, I want to say.
Yeah, it's quite the reach.
It also does the same thing as Invasion from Beyond. When you reach the end of the map, you just cycle back through to the other side.
It really disoriented me sometimes in this game, though.
Oh, okay.
Just because, like, I was trying to find enemies and, like, it would start looping back around, and then the marker that shows you where your castle just switches really fast. And it just, I don't know, I'm like, wait, where am I going again? And I bring up the map, and I'm like, oh, all right.
On top of that, we didn't say this, but the map updates too to your position. So if you loop, like the big map, I don't know if you use that at all.
I did. That's what I was just talking about. Yeah.
When you do that, now you have to like stare at it and try to understand where you are now, because it's cycled back through to the other side. You're like, wait, where was I going? I forget now.
Yeah. So like it doesn't stay in the same spot the whole time. It moves with you, and it's just so confusing for literally no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Probably would have been easier to just have just a static map.
Yeah, and just show where your cursor is on that map.
Yeah. I don't know, dude.
It's a weird review too of just you can burn the earth or burn the planet, and that's why we like it. There's like no substantial thing there to like the game.
Well, to be fair, I just picked this little part of it, but if you think about it, not a lot of games have destructible environments like that.
I will give you that. Yeah.
This game doesn't even do it that well, but you know, it is a thing you can do. All right, an official PlayStation Magazine UK gave it an 8 out of 10, and they said, one of the most interesting and original games in the past couple of years. It's infuriatingly difficult, but nevertheless drags you in until you're hooked.
Were you ever hooked to Jimmy?
I will be completely honest with you. The first few levels, I was like, this is kind of fun. I kind of like this. But then level 6 happened, and I just didn't want to play anymore.
I don't think I was ever like hooked into the game. I think there was parts where I thought it was decent and interesting, a little bit of fun. But yeah, when level 6 happens, when level 7 happens, it's just torture. And then when it goes back to now normal gameplay, it's like, well, but now this is too easy. There's no middle ground.
Well, I'll ask you this. Would you enjoy playing this more with a mouse and keyboard?
Maybe. I have thought about that.
I just think that's going to be something that comes up a lot as we go through the PlayStation games. I feel like this game would instantly just be like a point up just by having mouse and keyboard controls.
I would say not even just mouse and keyboard. If you had the draw distance a little bit better, I think those two things.
If it's the PC version, then you can just do whatever you want. So like,
yeah. I just mean like if we were just like what could be fixed from the PlayStation version, but yeah, just better controls and a better draw distance could have fixed this game a lot.
No, I just mean like I bet you the PC version has both of those things.
Oh yeah, probably.
I didn't look at the footage of it. I'm trying not to do that too much because I don't want to be like tainted by the better version. I just want to see what's in front of us. But I am sure that version of the game is better. But that's going to bring us to our scores.
I don't know where you sit on this.
I don't know either. That's the fucking problem. Before this episode, I'm like looking at everything. I'm like, I don't know.
I can start if you want.
Yeah, you go first this time. Usually I go first. Let's have you go first.
So with everything we talked about, I don't even want to repeat all the pros and cons. Ultimately, from the very beginning, whenever I was playing this game, I thought this is Invasion from Beyond. We're just playing the same game again. In my opinion, this game does things better than Invasion from Beyond. But then there's also some elements that Invasion from Beyond does better than this game. So it's that weird balance. And my entire thought process on my score was, is this better or worse than Invasion from Beyond? I think they balance each other out to the point where I'm just going to give it the same score I gave it Invasion from Beyond because the pros and the cons of both games just equal themselves out. So I'm just going to give it a 5, and that's what I gave Invasion from Beyond.
So I personally like this game just slightly more than Invasion from Beyond. I didn't have those rage-inducing moments. I didn't have like physical just not wanting to play this game so much that I had to force myself to even hit 2 hours.
And that's what I had.
Yeah. So I was actually doing the exact same thing as you, like looking at these, and I'm like, it definitely sits in here. And I think I'm going to do exactly what you did, but I'm just going to go a tiny bit better than Invasion from Beyond. And I'm going to sit with a 5.
Wow. So we're going to agree that it is a 5.
It's not horrible. It's not like one of the worst games I've ever played. It's just kind of janky. It's kind of shitty sometimes. And like, there's clearly a better version of it to play than this. So like at the end of the day, it's, you know, just straight down the middle.
Yeah. And I do want to agree with you that I did have more fun with this than Invasion from Beyond. It's just that I feel like even though I had more fun on the level of gameplay, it compares to level or Invasion from Beyond. So even though this might be just a little bit more fun, it still had problems that should have been fixed in the beginning.
And to what you were saying earlier, I think Invasion from Beyond has more personality and more like just an overall better presentation.
Yes. But it gets boring really fast.
Yeah. These games are very similar. I'm wondering if this is going to be a pattern with these like flying games.
I thought the exact same thing of, is every single flying shooting game going to be like this? And I hope not. I hope some game like exceeds beyond our expectations on that.
I mean, obviously not PlayStation, but Star Fox is an example of what a flying game can be and when it could be good.
Exactly. So yeah, we agree. It's been a while since we've agreed on the score, but now we tie with Soul the Samurai with a 5.
So this brings me to my next topic here. We mentioned it before. We're going to start doing this thing where when we're playing a more simple game, you know, this episode is an hour in at this point on our timer, but some episodes we're going to throw in at the end, you know, what if we want to change our scores? I'm not going to change this episode, but I do feel like I rated Soul the Samurai too high just because I was using save states and that was just not a fair way to judge the game.
Okay.
I just feel like your rating for Soul the Samurai is the true rating. Like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll just change that this episode. I just personally think that this would sit above Soul the Samurai.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I don't know. I wasn't expecting there to be a tie in this episode. I don't know if I could put one above the other for between the two. I honestly think I might like Soul the Samurai a little bit more. Maybe, but it just seemed like a more fleshed out idea of a game. And that's the only reason.
Yes, but Soul the Samurai was so goddamn hard, dude.
Well, yeah, so is this one sometimes.
But like with Soul the Samurai, you know, you got to start the whole game over, you know, continues everything else. Like,
oh, true.
This game, even though it's probably going to get infuriatingly hard, at least you can play it as many times as you want.
Yeah. So is that going to be your change for this week? Is we're going to move?
I wasn't going to do it, but I just feel like I should. I'm going to change my rating from Soul the Samurai from a 5.5 to a 4.5.
Wow. Okay. We're going to do a 4.5, which now the question comes into, is this better or worse than Tomb Raider, the Soul Samurai?
I think Tomb Raider's better.
I was going to say the same thing. As infuriating as that is, it's not as infuriating as Soul Samurai. Okay, so for everyone listening to this, what's happening is Magic Carpet is now at 19, right under Driver 1. I think that's a pretty fitting spot. Soul Samurai is now moving from the 20th position down to the 25th position. Or no, 24th. 24th position. Also, I think pretty fitting. So I wanted to make a change too. And I was looking at this list and I feel like it was hard for me to find one. Because I'm like, I feel like I've been fair with all my scores. There is one game I feel like I wasn't fair to. And the more I think about it, I'm like, it wasn't that bad of a game. And that is Diver's Dream.
Wow.
Yeah. The more I think about it, I'm like, you know what? I think I was a little too harsh on that. It was a pretty good game, especially doing the edit, watching back the footage. I thought, yeah, I was a little bit too rough on this game. And I think I do agree with you that it is a 6.5 with that, which then that means Diver's Dream now goes from the 15th place to the 14th place. So it moves up one spot.
Yeah, I just think it's important that, you know, we acknowledge that either, you know, we were too harsh or we just didn't get it right, or maybe we were too positive on it for one reason or another. And I think a lot of the ones that I'm going to change to are going to be some of the earlier ones, from months ago, because now we have more context from playing more games.
Yeah. And also time plays an important role into this too, of when you let a little bit of time pass and you're not in that moment of like complaining about the game and whatnot and talking about the positives, you really get to see the game for what it is. Yeah. So that's our new updates. Diver's Dream moves up. Soulless Samurai moves down.
Yeah, I mean, just to be honest with you, I got at least 5 or 6 more I'm going to change.
And that's fine. I don't know too many more I'll be changing. I'll keep looking at the list. And I'll keep trying to think of if I was unfair to any of them. But I'm pretty sure I'm pretty set in stone on all of these.
What's funny is I'm betting that a lot of these changes are just going to be like, yeah, you were right. I'm going to go to your score.
Pretty much.
I think that's what's going to happen a lot. But at the end of the day, I just want to have like a list that we're proud of. And I don't want to look back at it and be like, man, I really hated that game in the moment, but now I still think about it and I still like it.
Yeah. And we talked about it too, of like the early games, we weren't really too sure. Like we didn't experience the worst of the worst, and we haven't experienced really good games yet. So those really early episodes is just, we're giving it a number that we feel for now. And now that we have experienced the really bad games and really good games, it's like, okay, I feel like I can judge this better now.
And what's funny enough is Crash Bandicoot, our first episode, I'm not going to change that one. I feel like we got that one right.
Yeah, I agree. Somehow we got the first one pretty much spot on.
So yeah, I mean, I guess this will become a weekly, bi-weekly, whatever, whenever we feel like adding it in their thing. But I just think it's going to be fun to redo our list a little bit, Oh
yeah. It definitely is not going to be an every time thing, even though there might be a few episodes in a row where we do it. It's not going to be every single week, just until we get things in order. And then maybe once a year we come back and see if everything's okay or not. Or maybe twice a year.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much like whenever you have something you want to change, we'll add it to the episode. But we're not just going to put it there just to put it there.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, all right. That is going to do it for us. Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you enjoyed this, please remember to like and subscribe, as well as give us a rating on podcast services. We'll see you next week.